The full moon bites your senses, the darkness knows your name. It whispers lies into the wind to convince them you're insane. Your friends ask friends, where you been? Yet it seems no one knows. The color black paints your lips and dominates all your clothes. Your walls adorned with Ouija boards, your bookcase may catch fire. From magic books and murder crooks, this fascination never tires. 'Cause somewhere not so long ago you woke and found the weird. Conspiracies and aliens, ancient demons, cults of fear. It's all more real than so-called news, it's everywhere you go. Thank God that John and Stacey welcomed you into the show. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your hosts, authors of Till Death and Beyond, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my beautiful wife, Stacey.
Hello.
Hello.
How did I graduated from lovely to beautiful?
It's beautiful. It's because it was a vampire.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Is that why John was drawn out so long?
Pennsylvania. Yes. So we are back.
Yeah.
We are back in black. We're back for the attack, and we are back for your racks. All of them. That's right. I see you, Tiny. They call you Tiny because it's ironic. We're on our way right now. And as I love to say, boy, howdy, have we had a time. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. We've been up and down the East Coast and around in some little circles here and there, a lot of little circles. Mm-hmm. And we have had a lot of good times. And I had a birthday.
You did?
And that was a long-ass time ago. It feels like.
It does feel that way.
It feels very far removed from the day of birth. But it's okay, because my birthday was not fun. It was not fun. My birthday was a comedy of eras. And when you have a comedy of eras, they're not funny at first. Mm-hmm. They're not funny at second, third, fourth, fifth. They're not even funny at 11th. But once you get a few days in a row and everything you do, boy, ends up screwing up and blowing up in your face, all you can do is laugh. That's all you can do. Especially when you've told yourself, I'm not going to get mad about anything. I'm going to be easy going, easy listening. Just like, welcome to K-Rock, easy listening 102.9. We're going to play a little Kenny Loggins today. Hope you enjoy it. Here we go. No, you can only take the Kenny Loggins for so long. Kenny Loggins only lasts for so long, and then it starts getting a little heavy. It gets a little Led Zeppelin going, a little Black Sabbath going, and then you break out the hard stuff, and you just can't take it no more. So,
I'll take your word for it.
The comedy of eras, we'll cover a little bit of it. Some of it we can't, but some of it was bloody freaking crazy. Mm-hmm. And it really goes with the show. And, we have, honestly, we've went a little bit everywhere. We had a great time up at Mothman. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My God, did we have a good time at Point Pleasant.
Really liked it there.
I loved it at Point Pleasant. I love you, Point Pleasant. You were a lot of fun.
Yes.
You were a good sport. Mm-hmm. And we enjoyed how the feeling that we get in the little guest place, the little museum deal.
Yes.
So Stacey and I both, we both love the flying humanoids. And by love, I mean interested. It's not like we're like, right. Oh God, flying humanoid! Can we have your autograph, please? It depends. Can I see the rock? It's not like that at all.
No.
It's more like it's interesting, mm-hmm. When you look at stuff every day for years and years and years and years and years, mm-hmm. Ours is chronicled going back to 97, unlike former skeptics that just lie about what they do and then get pissed when other people do the same idea that a million other people have done. Unlike people like that.
That wouldn't happen.
No, that'd be hypothetical. If I was
course.
saying something like that, it would be hypothetical. That would be like somebody ordering me and you on Wish.
Ah, yes. Mm-hmm. Not quite getting the right.
No. They
tried.
You get like the insincere version, except it looks like a lot cooler on paper.
Right.
But then the substance is not the same. Have you ever sat in a really
on a really good looking piece of furniture, but it's like from a rent-to-own store.
Right.
So it looks great.
Oh, yeah. It looks fantastic, especially in the pictures.
And it's readily available. Okay. It's everywhere, right?
Right.
Every street corner. And you sit on it and it breaks under the weight of your fat ass. Now, you've got like some, pretty well looking piece of furniture that is, it's kind of tattered and torn. It looks like it's seen some shit.
Right.
And it's sitting at your grandmother's house. And it used to be in your grandmother's store that she had for years. And you go sit on that thing and it looks like it's going to be hard. It looks like this thing might hurt me.
Right.
And there's a possibility that my grandparents were conceived on it. Okay. So you know that you're going through generations of DNA.
Right.
And you go sit on that thing and you're asleep in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah. That's like my favorite chair.
Yeah.
That I had for a long time. It was the most comfortable chair I've ever had till it broke.
Yeah.
But it was just old chair.
Dude, listen, I'm telling you, that's the best furniture. They don't make things like that anymore.
The kind that you wouldn't dare go near with a black light just in case.
And you don't go near us with a black light just in case. That's exactly what I'm saying. Look, on the surface, it may not look like it, but we have a crime scene of a bedroom. And we don't care whose bedroom it is. I'm just telling you, all right? There's love, and then there's something wrong with people that's been together as long as we have and still have the same crime scene of a bedroom. So I'm just being hypothetical.
Right. Completely hypothetical. But anyway, back to Mothman. Right.
So we were at Mothman and we go through and it's just one of these things. It's just one of these attractions, and they didn't have the damn t-shirt I wanted. And they didn't have the one you wanted. And it sucks because it was like the $50 t-shirt. And it's like, yeah, let's get that. Oh, God.
Well, I mean, I still got a pretty cool one, though. I like the one that I got. It's the baseball type. It has like the 3/4 sleeves.
Yeah, just rub it in.
It's really cute.
Why haven't you wore that?
I just haven't had a chance.
Oh. Because that would look hot. You should wear that.
I'll wear it tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry about the home life stuff thrown in there. I was just really wondering. I've wore the crap out of mine, I believe. Right?
I don't know because it's black.
Oh, I see.
I make fun of our closet. Like
so
you open our closet.
They
it's
all
like,
look alike to you.
You open our closet. It's
Even
like
though there's vast differences in each one. And personality that makes them all different.
They each have a different wrestler on them.
They all look the same to you. I understand.
We have the Scooby-Doo closet. We open it and everything is exactly the same. It's just black t-shirt, black t-shirt, black t-shirt, black t-shirt.
It's okay. We need to all be represented here. I understand. So we go into the museum.
Right.
And, first we talk to the guy. And I don't know, the boy. Sorry, boy, if you're listening right now, but you're a boy compared to that guy. I don't know if you're the son or not. I didn't want to sniff all up in your business, but we go in and it's something different about watching a story your entire life on movies, books, the internet. You look through the interwebs, and every few days you see something about Mothman stories, about Point Pleasant. And in this line that we've done from the established timeline of 97, I mean, we've been weird much longer than that. So right. I'm sure we heard about or talked about Mothman well before that for the first time. But I remember us first really diving down that road more like 99, 2000 or something. I believe there was something on a show that we saw and we were like, oh, hey, let's dive down that hole. And oddly enough, it wasn't that movie, The Mothman Chronicles. It wasn't that. But anyway, there was this belief that I had for it, obviously, because you see all the eyewitness things. And I guess it's kind of like I always tell you guys, for our first experience with the shadow person, there's a belief that I see in people's eyes, and I can feel it in their soul, that they believe what I'm telling them when I tell them that, the original story, the event, as we call it. But the thing about that is there is a different understanding when someone else has experienced the same thing. And that experience is still compelling to that person. The person that's experienced something similar, they're still enthralled and they understand, they feel you, and they'll share their experience as well. with us, and we feel the same way for them. But there is still a difference in being me or Stacey and having the memory tied to this event, that where we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was daytime, that this was what we say it was. This
Right.
could be nothing else. There's not even a fraction of a chance. Not even a fraction of a chance. There's never been anything that came across, because we thought for days and days and days trying to figure something out. Okay. And then trust me, we've thought for 2 decades about things that what could this be? And there is nothing. We know what we've seen. You know, that's the old adage, right? I know what I saw.
That's
well,
right.
we know what we saw. And there's just something different about that level of sincerity. So when we walk in the back of the Mothman Museum, they have the original newspaper articles. They have, they have original pieces of the bridge. They have all these things about the tragedy.
They have a handwritten witness statement.
That's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Nothing got us more. We sit and we read the original handwritten witness statements in their handwriting, signed by by the people themselves. And these are, you got your sworn affidavits, right? That always makes you feel, wow, that carries weight. And these were statements. These are sworn true statements by the people that it happened to, victims, witnesses, however you want to term them. Okay. This was the people. And it starts out with the kids that witnessed what they witnessed. All right. The red eyes, keeping up with the car, and then other people experiencing the same thing. And then you kind of keep reading, and you read as this story unfolds, and it builds to the crescendo of terror. And that crescendo of terror was that bridge coming down and trapping those poor souls. And then you read the stories of the haunted truck drivers that heard the screams, heard the people that were never heard again, heard their last gulps for air. And it's horrible. It's absolutely terrible. And there's stories in there I read that I've never read anywhere else. Thank God, because there's just some things they don't share. Any tragedy that ever happens, you don't want to hear some of the details. Okay. You get the picture. And it was sobering.
It was, to see all those original newspaper articles, and just because, you're like, oh yes, the bridge, it was such a tragedy. And that's so easy to say. But when you're staring at it and you're seeing the people's names of the ones that were lost,
right,
like listed there.
Yeah.
It's such a different emotion.
It's a different emotion. You're right. Yeah. And it's that emotion. I can't liken it to anything else other than that one I talk about when, at Waverly Hills, when I experienced, we were together, but separated. And I was in that room and experienced that thing running around the room. And I had like 7 people in the room, and it's rattling the doors and the cabinets and all this stuff. It's terrifying. You can hear the claws running on the sides of the walls. And you were like a floor away from me or something. And I told you that, but it never registered, because I just get those things.
Right.
It never registered with you the way it would register with you were you in that room.
Right.
But when we did share some of the experiences, such as, and I'm just using Waverly as an example, but knocking on the door and the guy going, can I help you, or hello, or whatever it was he said, it was so clear,
right,
so real, from an empty, decrepit, vacant for 80 years room.
Right.
And it was just it was still normal for that guy. And on the 4th floor, by the way. But that experience could not be the same unless we together, Tim, Connie, and Ashley, I believe, maybe, we were all together at that moment, and we all carry that with us. And, so this is what it gave me. So if you like things like that, and you're like us, you live like way too close that it's embarrassingly close to this place, and you've like drove by it a million times without stopping. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't think much more of it except the fact that there might be that statue there. Because as far as going and investigating something, it's long gone. There's going to be nothing to investigate. Sure, it's cool to go somewhere where something has happened in the past, but it's not like it's a boots on the ground thing. This was my thinking. This was Stacey's thinking. that we're going to go to some, podunk West Virginia town. Well, hello, we've been to a million of them, and that wasn't it at all. There was a certain little elegance about this town, and it's quaint, and there's something really nice about it. There is something, at least for us, there was an allure to the town.
It gave you that feeling of like you could come home here every day. Like there's not a lot of places that give you that feeling. We have a lot of those up in New England, like around Maine and Vermont and stuff. A lot of little towns we would go to, and we'd be like, "Wow, we feel so good here. We could live here. We could just come here every day and be fine."
I saved a meme for you today about that.
Oh, did you?
Funny enough, but about what you're talking about. Continue.
Oh, but it was like that with Point Pleasant, and it's not. There aren't a lot of places in the South that are like that for us, where you just go and then you're like, wow, I just feel so good here. Like the energy here is really nice. And
read this.
And, let's see.
People.
Okay, so it says, when you find the place where magic dwells, stay there all. That's cute. That little fairy looks like Wavy.
Yeah. So that was, to me, I was going to send that to you with a picture of Maine.
Oh, yes.
And no other words, no other context, but I actually was pining for it today and found that quote. I loved it. When you find the place where magic dwells, stay there.
Yes.
And I totally agree. I wish I had. So trying to always work our way back there, but that gets us to the point. We were in this place and we were like, let's buy a shop.
Yeah, we were like, I wonder if they have houses for rent around here.
Let's buy a shop, because that's always been our end game. Is not to get rich. I mean, the plan is to be well off,
right?
And then buy a shop that it doesn't matter that we don't make money,
right?
That it makes enough to keep the shop.
Just a little cute shop with all the weird curiosities and magical items and crystals and things that we love, like a little bit of everything we love.
Magic, readings,
antiques, haunted antiques.
Yeah,
because nobody's done that.
Right. Yeah, that's an original idea, babe.
It is.
Maybe somebody should take that on the road or something. I don't know.
Wow, I bet nobody's thought of that.
I bet nobody has. You're right.
Cool.
So anyway, the store, man, I know where Raja gets the shade now.
Hey, that is passed down through the women in my family.
It
is a generational thing.
Seen the meme, like when you were saying that, I saw the little GIF I send all the time, like in between the two buildings, and you see the shade go over top that says shade.
Shade, yeah.
And that's I got that because Cody sent that originally for Raja one time. And he's the one that really picked up on.
Raja has perfected the art.
She is the shade tree, and because she's so sweet, you smell it coming. So. But yeah, that was a really glorious part that wouldn't have happened had the next thing I'm going to tell you not happened. So, some of our friends, we have prefaced the story by telling them a little bit, and I will tell you when we told them a little bit of this before I go into the story itself. So, this past weekend, we did a investigation because we've done a few investigations over the past couple of weeks. We've, got a lot of evidence to go through, but some places we investigated, we didn't expect to investigate. We'll just say that. Okay. So one thing we were doing on my birthday, and it was really more for Stacey than me, was Pennhurst. Okay. We'd been talking about Pennhurst forever, but not in a way of, boy, I want to investigate that place.
No.
Stacey wanted to investigate that place because it's, it's haunted like
Pennhurst,
like hell, So I didn't want to investigate the place because I've got a certain thing against mental hospitals. It's just a thing. Okay. An
aversion to them, I guess.
Yeah. There's a slight aversion to them because of it was sort of the empathy.
Right.
An empath doesn't just, and I never refer to myself as an empath, but there's other things going on with me. Right. That encompasses empathy. And you don't want to have anything to do with empathy and be in a place like that because it really just screws your day up greatly, and it opens me up for attacks.
Yes. But you did compromise, and instead of going and investigating it, you got me the tickets for like the public ghost hunt tour.
It was still the investigation, but sort of with other people,
right?
Not the way we normally do it, with just me and Sis here. So
right.
it's going to be a lot of fun. Nonetheless, you know, you're still going till like 2 a.m. or whatever and having a good time, taking your equipment, right, and all that stuff. So we were on our way up there. We were going up the interstate up through Virginia, and I'd already scouted it out a couple of times, and I found the town that was somewhere close to it. And I was like, well, that town is 20 minutes from this actual site, and we can stay here and use our Hilton honors, and we'll stay in the Hilton, and we'll do it, and you know, and like literally do it, and then the next day we'll go to the investigation at like 6 o'clock at night, and we'll be very relaxed. We'll have a great drive up. We'll listen to our Spellmonger book. Shout out to Terry. And we will just go to the thing actually relaxed for once instead of tense about finding the place.
Right, and being in a rush.
Right. All the things that normally take away from an investigation.
Right.
Is all the little, you know, oh my God, where do we park or what do we do here?
And so, having to drive all day before you go investigate, that's always the worst.
Right. And where I work like a bloody slave, a lot of times we have to do it like that if we're going to do it. So this was really a nice change. It was the start of my vacation instead of the end of my vacation as well. The end of my vacation is not fun for anyone around me because I'm thinking about, it takes me about 4 days to get into my vacation, to wear off work. And then about a day later, I'm worried about going back. So there's about a 24-hour, you know, of grace that we have. Anyway, so that's a whole nother therapy session for another day. But, you know, we having a great time. We're listening to the book. And like I said, we're listening to the Spellmonger series. We absolutely love that. And we'll go on to a little side trip on that a little bit later. You know, we've talked about it before, but we're going to go into it a little bit deeper because we are going to have Terry Mancour, the brilliant author of the Spellmonger book series, on the show sooner rather than later. And can't wait to do that interview because I want to turn as many of you on to Spellmonger as possibly, you know, humanly possible. So anyway, Stacey, you know, I have it on my phone. I'm like, well, here's what I've looked up. So she looks it up on her gimmick, and she's like, okay, you know, I got this, and blah 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 blah, and puts it in, and I look at, you know, I was like, where do I turn? She goes up here, and I was like, God, that seems like it's weird to take me off interstate. Because, you know, before I looked at it, we could go interstate the entire way, but it was still the same amount of time. Okay. It was roughly the same amount of hours away than the other one was when I first looked at it. So there's no reason to think anything, except I was having a little voice, you could say, that was like telling me, you know, you're not going to get there. You're not going to go. And I'm thinking it's thinking about me, like getting to the building and going, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do it, you know, which I was like, that's preposterous. I'm not going to do that, you know, after spending money. I'm not going to do that. So we get off on this little route, and we start going through this route, and it's not a main highway. It's not a rickety highway, but it's just different. And it's that nice time of night. The sun's not really out anymore. It's more of the hint of the sun. It's more of the dusk, you know, and or it's just awesome. It is beautiful outside. The colors are just right. The land itself is just, you know, we were talking about how we just wanted to buy a house there and like a farm or something, and go to sewing circles and, you know, just crazy stuff. And I got like super randy. And I mean, we literally stopped the car to make out several times, and we're like talking about going over, getting in the grass. Like we were connecting with something in that area.
It's a very magical feeling.
It was as magical as I've ever felt before in my life. And we were truly connected with the land. I'm not going to go too deep into that part, but I will say, you know, you can read between the lines here. We were feeling very connected with the area. And it got even cooler. When it got dark, we were going through the mountains on this road, and I was very thankful for it because there was a full moon, and it was beautiful. And we were going, I mean, when I say mountains, dude, this was mountains, and it was beautiful. Even though it was pitch black, The stars were beautiful. We had the sunroof open. It was just the right temperature. Everything was right. Everything was good. Hell, we were loving our book. And, you know, we get to the hotel. Everything's still fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And we, you know, in the hotel, though, it was, I don't know, man. There's no other way to put it than haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Our hotel was super haunted.
It was super
Our
haunted.
room, at least, was super freaking haunted.
It was noises and
I mean,
voices and shadow figures.
yeah,
It was
just
crazy.
Just no playing around voices and stuff. So much so that we recorded the entire night on the night vision camera, and we have audio. When I tried using equipment like proximity sensors and stuff, it kept going off. I couldn't even turn on EMF because it would keep playing with it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, okay, it's here, because it would jump right up to 7, you know, and it's like, okay, wow. So we just record it, and we haven't went through that yet. Mm-mm. But the next night, you know, we just laid around, watched stuff on TV. You know, we went and got some food and all this good stuff during the day, just fun hanging out stuff. And we leave in enough time to go to the investigation, and we go down to the gas station to fill up, and I, you know, put the directions in, and it says 4.5 hours. I'm like, what the hell? How the hell? And I'm thinking that the GPS isn't working, right? Like, you don't have a signal sometimes, it'll screw up. Mm-hmm. It just didn't make sense. Nothing made sense about this. And this is like one of those moments where, I don't know if you've ever had where you're on a road and all of a sudden you don't realize what road you're on. And anybody who does paranormal investigating, you've had that happen. And maybe people that don't do paranormal investigating have had that happen. But I'm telling you, coming back from investigations before, several times we've been on roads to our house when we're like, where the hell are we?
Yeah, this does not look familiar at all.
It's the craziest feeling, especially sharing it with someone. But we figure out, man. We figure out the hard way. I used my truck's GPS, and the same thing came up. I don't ever use that because it always tries to kill us. We told you about that before. So I'm just like, I was perplexed. It wasn't one of those blame games. It wasn't one of those yell things. It wasn't one of those get mad. It was more of me and her both were just shell shocked. I think that's the best way to put it. We were shell shocked. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we actually called Rasha, and it was just like, you ain't going to believe this, you know, because we just wanted to tell her, and it was just crazy. So we decided to go back to the room, and, you know, just, you know, she called the place, and, you know, we'll get more to that in a second, but it was just bananas, what happened. And then, of course, on the way back, we decided to go to Mothman, and, you know, we had just stayed in the haunted room again, and
so we did investigate.
We investigated.
We just investigated a hotel room.
Yeah, we investigated, and we know for a fact there's some crazy stuff we're going to have from that. Maybe the best stuff out of everything. But, you know, and we were on our way to Florida from there to go have a great time, and, you know, sit front row for AEW Dynamite and enjoy some, you know, little private investigation stuff.
Right. I will say, can I add to your story just a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, because we always talk about how we watch for signs and things like that. And sometimes you don't notice those things as you're going along. But when you look back, then you're like, holy cow.
Right.
And, you know, when we, like you said, we left Friday in the morning. We wanted to leave early in the morning, and we weren't going to investigate till Saturday night, so we could be very leisurely. And right off the bat, starting Friday morning, it was like one thing after another. Like, we didn't get out of town until the afternoon.
Right.
Because it was just one thing after another, and nothing, you know, to get angry about, but it was just one of those things where, you know, something came up and then something else came up, and we just couldn't get on the road. So finally we did get on the road. And as we're leaving, you know, before we're even very far down the road, we had 3 different instances where people pulled over on us in front of the car, like literally almost pushing us off the road. Crazy. And this wasn't even July 4th traffic yet. Like, we're still in June.
This is on my birthday.
Yeah. And people were cutting us off. And I noticed that all 3 of the cars that did that all had Pennsylvania license plates, which is where we were going. Penhurst is in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And, you know, we were in Virginia.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that all three of these cars were from Pennsylvania, and they were all almost ran us off the road.
Yeah, we're not close to Pennsylvania, part of Virginia.
No. So that was kind of weird, and then we had the mix up with the hotel and the GPS. But then when you look back, you had all of these wonderful things that happened and came from that, almost like that was more of what we should have been doing in the first place.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a whole connection with us. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things you don't know you need it until it happens, right?
Right.
So, because you go through your life and you're like, everything's hunky dory, everything's good, but then there's a difference. There's a peck kiss, and then there's kissing, right? And in couples that have been together forever, you may not take that time to kiss, or whatever. And it was that kind of stuff. Like when I say we made out like two teenagers, like it was different, dude. It was just different.
It was.
There was a different feeling to everything. And we had a great time because we kind of are at that point after all these years, man. We don't let that stuff control us. Mm-hmm. It's going to hurt us. Sure, it hurts us because we have stuff planned or whatever, but we don't let it control us because we realize there's always another time.
Right. I mean, essentially, we didn't lose anything. We are still going to investigate there. We're going to reschedule. And actually turned out better because we're going to do the...
Well, we did St. Albans this past weekend with, with our crew. We had Alan, we had Daryl, we had Molden, we had Jeffrey and Tanya, we had Coda, we had Caleb. We had a cast of other characters there, but we had a fantastic time with the core group. Mm-hmm. And, it's really got me to a point where I'm kind of thinking that team thing again. I've actually got some plans where I'm going to maybe unveil with some people and see who's in and all this stuff. But most of them are in for us renegotiating what we were doing with Pennhurst. And now we're just going to do the private overnight with our team.
Right.
Our team for that night. I'll say that right now.
Which I suppose is what we should have done in the first place, obviously.
Well, I've been tinkering about the team thing.
Right.
For a while because we've been doing it with just us forever. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons for that. But, I've got enough people that I trust wholeheartedly and, are in it for the right reasons that I feel comfortable with. And, I really want to investigate with these people because I, number one, respect their opinions and appreciate their styles, and it's, everybody's a little bit different, in literally and investigation wise, but, I enjoy their company. So it's one of those things that everything happens for a reason, they say. Mm-hmm. And I think we might have our reason on this. It'd be nice if I had told him this before they heard it on the show, but this is how it works sometimes with me, because if anybody who knows me knows I'm probably one of the busiest people you'll ever know. And it's not from one thing I do. It's from all 5 things I do. Mm-hmm. And, everybody's always like, how do you have time? Well, I give everything my full 100% undivided attention. So when I'm working at #BruceWayneJob, I don't mess around with the paranormal. I don't mess around with wrestling. I don't even mess around with family. Ask them, they'll send me text messages at 10 a.m. And I have no idea. I'll get home and they'll be like, well, I sent you that. Did you? Okay, let me look at it now. And, it's unchecked messages. And people I know, unless they're friends of mine that have known me for years, they realize I'm not blowing them off. That you might go a week, 2 weeks, and it's nothing personal. It's really not. It's truly the fact that a normal day to me is wake up, 6:30 normally, maybe a little bit earlier, and sit there and stare at Stacey until she gets up with me. But I get up, shower, eat something, check my messages for work, start down that work road that just is always nuts. It's always something new every single day. It's always insanity. And that takes my day. It just takes my day all the way up until that evening. And I get home in the evening, and the first thing I want to do is have dinner with everyone, So I have dinner, and nobody can disturb me during dinner. I have what I call dinner theater. So there's different shows we watch while we're eating that we can discuss during, we can talk and all this stuff. It's our family thing.
Doesn't matter if you look down.
Yeah, exactly.
Food,
yeah,
stuff like
it doesn't
that.
matter what you're doing. You can play a game, whatever. It's relaxing television. It's not stuff we have to watch, and because that stuff's like work itself, stuff you have to pay attention to sometimes. And then, it's on to recording a show like we're doing right now. I have the wrestling show. I have the live recap, Wednesday night's family night for watching AEW Dynamite live. If I have a wrestling show, there's going to be that. I might be doing promos for wrestling. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, because my worst enemy is silence. Because within my silence is the most noise ever. Okay. My mind is just like that, and I can't stand it. I can't stand being stagnant. I can't stand not doing something, not creating something. Trust me, just ask Stacey how I am if we decide, oh, hey, let's just lay around the house today. It don't work like that.
No.
I just can't. There's so many things in my head that I want to get accomplished. And I have to get them accomplished right now, And so anyway, this is how it works. I think everything worked out beautifully. We're going to be bringing you some cool stuff, like with the investigation. We're going to be bringing you some evidence. I'm thinking I might do some evidence review even live on Patreon. I'm thinking about doing some of that. That might be fun.
That'd be fun.
Just setting up, camera and forgetting it's on and picking our nose and everything, but just doing maybe some live.
People can see how we like us looking at each other like,
yeah. Well,
I heard something.
when I do find something, I could play it for everyone.
There you go.
That might be fun. Either that, or we go through a night of it and we get some really good stuff, and then we share it with the Patreon members first.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So we can go live and we can be like, okay, have them loaded up, and I can play some of the stuff for you guys. I think that might be the better thing, because the other way, you are going to see us acting really, 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 really stupid. So, because we get goofy when we're in that place. Plus, I go to another place, as chronicled in our book that I mostly wrote.
Yeah. I hear you.
But hey, if David Weatherly's listening right now, Mister. You're another one that I love very much, that I need to reach back out to and all this stuff. But we're been writing chapters, quite a few chapters. And man, I'll tell you what. So we were already working on this project about giants and about mounds. And working on that, we worked on it really hard. We did a presentation. And we had a presentation ready for things like, little library events or whatever. And, we did it for the virtual Scarefest and all that stuff. So that was all well and good, but we kind of put it over to the side to really concentrate more on a theory-based thing, follow-up for our first book, because it was kind of writing itself. And there was one aspect of the book that we did not explore to the degree we wanted to explore. And even on the investigation we just did, that same thing just popped its ugly head up again. And it's kind of saying, write me. You've got all this material. But we decided to take Kyler, because right down the street, literally from us, is this woolly mammoth, this salt area I've talked about on the last show. And we took him up there, and he was just blown away. Just the most genuine smile I've ever seen the boy have.
Right. Well, if anybody that's a patron can go back and watch our video where we drove around the area before we took him.
Oh yeah.
And they can see like that area. We went back up there.
Yeah. I mean, just awesome. Right. And the actual museum is one of those things that you would not imagine, like very TARDIS-y. I mean, from the outside, it's a police box, and inside it's just big.
It's huge.
Yeah. This big, huge, beautiful thing. But there's some stories, man. Stories that aren't out there like they should be. And then there's just some weirdness with it. And in the same span of a few weeks, we found a lot of giant things that we didn't know about and previously, including one in our hometown that we have to go find where its original site is. And it was from a book that we bought at this particular museum. So randomly, I always pick up books when I go places, and
those local ones. You really love the local,
because you don't find them in,
Right.
I hate national chain books. I just do. And I like ones written by people I know, respect, trust.
Right. Well, and if you're getting local, like if you're doing a book on history for one little tiny town, you get to tell so many more stories than if you're doing it for the whole state.
Right.
Or for half the state or whatever.
So I got this book, and in this book, the book's fantastic, by the way. But sometimes I buy these books and I don't read them until, books like that, I don't read them until I'm doing the research I need to read them for, This one was different. Like, for some reason, I actually cracked this one open and I'm reading it in bed and enjoying it. And oh my God, with all the research we did on giants, not one time did I see one for our hometown.
Our area, yeah.
And there was one that's again, legitimately down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And they have it in this book. And, so now I know where to go on newspapers.com to find out what I need to find article-wise and to really do the research. And we're going to go to the library, do all that fun stuff. We're going to record it all as we do it. So you'll see it on Patreon when we find the place and stuff. But, man, we got just blessed with all these different things, these different stories that, to write, and however we decide to capture these moments. I'm really excited about content-wise, some things, that we're going to be studying and bringing up and researching and all this stuff for everyone. So really excited about what everything has, in store for us. Aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I've been working on a story, and this story I started working on basically when my vacation started back around my birthday, because there was an event happened that caught my attention. And it only caught my attention because I live, I'm interested in several things. And one of those things, more on the conspiracy side, or as I call it, the hidden fact side, it kind of goes with a quote that says, history is but a fable agreed upon.
That's very true.
And, you can do that however. History is a lie agreed upon, whatever, to be the truth. And we know it's written by the victors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being in that world, I'll listen or read just about any conspiracy that comes along to see what I feel about it. Sometimes they're absolutely silly, such as one I shared recently about, mud.
The mud flood.
Yeah. So sometimes they're better, founded than that. Sometimes there's things happen like, I don't know, we find a gigantic thing of metal at the bottom South Pole of the moon, that's embedded in the moon, and they don't know why, and then they quit talking about it. Things like that interest me.
Right.
And so one guy who really had just about everything you can ever imagine and was super rich, he said some things a couple of years ago when Epstein suicided himself. Mm-hmm. When somebody suicided him, I should say.
Right.
But John McAfee, the man who famously started the McAfee antivirus software.
Right. That's on all your computers.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's interesting to me. He's always been interesting to me because he was born and raised right down the street, in Salem, Virginia, right outside Roanoke. So I love when people have come from here because I know they had the same crappy textbooks. And, Stacey and I a lot of times will talk about Virginia stuff because even though she was on the other side of Virginia, we had the same worksheets. We had the same books, and that's just how things work. So that we get to share things from our past that have a little thread of similarity. So I think about other people and, they saw the same sunrise, things like that, like what inspired them to do what they did. And I know that his first job was at NASA. I already knew that. Like I knew that he went to college up in, Roanoke, and then he went and worked for NASA, and then he made his stuff and sold it and got out of all of it but he's always been controversial. And he had put some tweets out over the past couple of years. He's been in a lot of trouble. And I was trying to really work on this because of the nature surrounding his death. And so I honestly worked on this over and over and over. But then I read this article that was in The Independent And it really kind of summed up a lot of things before I go into any more deeper parts to the conspiracy whatsoever. I kind of wanted to talk about some of this. So, and at the risk of verbatim, that's why I wanted to kind of give credit here to this independent article, just to talk a little bit about it. And this was dated on Friday, June 25th, on my birthday. That's when this article came out. So I'm going to just go ahead and read some of this because it has some of the quotes in it. But know that if I hang myself, a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine. That's his own words from a tweet.
Oh, wow.
That's John McAfee's words. Less than 9 months after writing these words from a Spanish prison, John McAfee's lifeless body was discovered inside his cell. Shortly after his death, the Catalan Justice Department released a statement saying everything indicates that the 75-year-old had taken his own life. But his prophetic comment, together with a trail of online breadcrumbs left by the tech tycoon in the months and years leading up to the 23rd of June, mean his death is no less cryptic or controversial than the life he lived. I saw that chaotic and occasionally confusing life close up during numerous meetings and conversations throughout the final years of McAfee's life. The last time I spoke to him, just a few weeks after his Epstein warning, suicide was a long way from his mind. When I asked how he was managing to keep his spirits up while incarcerated in a foreign prison, he replied, as I always do, by finding the humor and sometimes the beauty that exists in almost all environments. McAfee had spoken frequently about his belief that the high-profile socialite and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in his New York jail cell while awaiting trial. He believed that, like Epstein, people in powerful places wanted him silenced. In November 2019, 3 months after Epstein's death, McAfee tattooed the word whacked, WHACKD, which I think is interesting, that it didn't have the ED there, on his right arm. And, quote, if I suicide myself, I didn't, unquote. He tweeted, I was whacked. And it's, again, spelled that way. At the time, McAfee was on the run from the United States authorities, sailing around the Caribbean with his wife and bodyguards, and occasionally clashing with some local law enforcement. And there's these tweets and Instagram and stuff is just nuts. One of these tweets from John McAfee that was at Official McAfee on Twitter says, getting subtle messages from United States officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm. And he's got a picture of his, of his tattoo. He was briefly detained in the Dominican Republic for carrying high-caliber weapons without declaring them, but was released after a few days and put on a plane to Europe, where he went off the grid once again. It wasn't the first time McAfee had fled authorities. In 2012, he notoriously escaped Belize on a boat after being named a person of interest in a murder investigation of his neighbor. After being arrested in Guatemala for illegally entering the country, he faked a heart attack while in custody in order to delay his deportation and give his lawyers long enough to file some appeals and secure his release. In the years since, he claimed to have been pursued by various branches of federal law enforcement agencies, including the CIA and the FBI, as well as Central American cartels. His final adversary, however, proved to be the pencil pushers at the IRS. In June of 2020, McAfee was indicted for failing to file tax returns between 2014 and 2018. This was something he freely admitted to, going even further by publicly confessing to not paying taxes for 10 years, informing the IRS that he refuses to file returns in principle. If these alleged offenses that eventually caught up with him at Barcelona airport last October when Spanish police arrested him at the request of the U.S. Department of Justice. He was preparing to catch a flight to Turkey hours before his body was discovered on June 23rd. The country's national court had finally agreed to extradite him to face charges in the United States. Once dubbed the prophet of paranoia, McAfee went to extraordinary lengths to protect his life. The first time I met McAfee in person was in a hotel bar in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2015. He had recently announced his candidacy for the U.S. presidency. He had pistols in each of his trouser pockets. He also had a fully armed bodyguard with him and later took pride in showing me around his tricked-out truck, fitted with laser sirens, reinforced windows, and a pneumatic bumper that could repel assailants. I did not doubt him when he told me he slept with an automatic weapon beneath his pillow. It was partly thanks to this paranoia that McAfee had made his fortune more than 30 years previously as the founder of the antivirus company. He was the first to foresee the threat posed by computer viruses back in the 1980s. This innate sense of looming danger appeared never far away. In 2017, one of his live-in security guards told me that once found McAfee naked in his living room at 4 a.m., firing bullets at a perceived intruder within the walls of his house. It was all part of a plot to kidnap him, McAfee told me. Several months later, in the basement toilets of Mayfair Hotel, McAfee was back on the subject of conspiracies. Midway through a post-conference dinner, he had left the table in a hurry and sent one of his bodyguards to summon me. He pulled me into a cubicle and told me he had another mind-blowing story. What he told me is too much to publish, but it involved powerful Silicon Valley elites injecting the blood of infants in order to prolong their lives beyond their natural span. On the day his body was found, an image of a single letter, Q, was posted to his Instagram account. This was instantly taken as a reference to a QAnon conspiracy theory, which also attempted to link a high-level cabal to child exploitation. McAfee claimed in June 2019 to have more than 31 terabytes of incriminating data relating to corruption at the highest levels. The instant I disappear, the information is released, he said. Those named would be crazy to kill me or collect me. They are simply praying I live forever. If it's released, revenge takes over and I'm dead. QAnon advocates are already speculating that there is a key code to a dead man switch containing damning evidence against the deep state. We will see if this pans out, QAnon adherent Mel Q posted to her 139,000 Telegram followers following McAfee's death. Similar to Epstein's death, theories have also arisen that McAfee is not dead at all. He frequently boasted of having various body doubles that he employed to confuse his pursuers, and even claimed that the CIA poisoned one of his doppelgangers on the way to a blockchain conference. The wild allegations and mysterious posts have all helped suspicion around his death, and within hours of him being announced, the hashtag John McAfee didn't kill himself was trending on social media. 2 autopsies of McAfee's body are expected to take place next week, an official state one followed by an independent one, but it is unlikely this will dispel the questions and conspiracies that now shroud his death as much as his life. And that was the story in the Independent there, which is there's a lot there to unpack. And, you know, in the time since then, some interesting things happened. One thing that story does not say, that letter Q was published after his death.
Oh.
On his Instagram.
Okay, so somebody had access to his account.
Something else is his Instagram has been deleted. That's, to me, pretty incredible.
Yes.
All the Twitter things he put out, you know, he just spelled it out over and over and over.
Right. He definitely didn't sound like a man that was going to hang himself.
No, and there's documentaries you can watch, like the little cheap ones people done over the last few years that are hilarious. The guy reminded me so much of me, like some of the funny stuff he did, and you know, some of the videos he made that address things. The thing about him being accused of killing the neighbor in 2012, this neighbor lived like 3 or 4 houses down and complained about McAfee's dogs.
Right.
You know, McAfee didn't know the guy. He would see him on the beach, you know, once a day or something like that. And, you know, McAfee lived with 4 girls at one time, or it was either 4 or 5, but he has all their names. He hired a cartoonist to come and like do his life. And there's an interview of that guy and like pictures of, and all these girls are like, cause McAfee's like, well, this one tried to kill me. And there's interviews with her on it, like an old Dateline. And she's like, yeah, I tried to kill him. And, you know, I was just jealous and tired and all this stuff. And then another one still lives there at that compound, because what he was doing is he went into this business to create antibiotics naturally using some of the plants and flowers in Belize. And so he had his compound raided by like 40 some government officials or whatever. Of course. And when they came in there, they didn't find a damn thing, because people had said he was growing illegal drugs or whatever. Right. Nothing. They found nothing illegal in this guy's many buildings. Right. You know, so he was like, they're just trying to get me, you know, do this, whatever. And that's kind of like what the guy down there tried to frame me or whatever. Just really seemed like he was telling the truth about all that. But then his paranoia I thought it was interesting that he came out and said that about having all this on people. And then when they're finally going to extradite him to the United States, which, if you're in prison and you're in the United States, there's a good chance you're going to make a deal or you're going to say something like that. And then hours after he's going to be extradited, he is, has committed suicide.
Right.
Now his wife is still got her Twitter. So Janice McAfee at the Mrs. McAfee on Twitter has put up, several things since the death. This is from July 10th at 4:44 p.m. Some have asked if I have been able to see John's body. Well, the answer to this is yes and no. I was able to view John's head through a window at the facility where they are keeping him. His entire body from the neck down was covered with a sheet and blanket. And then she put hashtag justice for John McAfee. And then on 7/13 at 3 p.m. exactly, the handwriting is suspect, and I doubt the authenticity of the note. It reads more like someone trying to imitate John's style of tweeting. And if this note was found in his pocket, where are the markings of the note being folded into his pocket? Hashtag not a suicide note. And then she puts, this goes back to 7/7/21. There has been no sense of urgency from various Spanish authorities involved in the investigation into John's death, and there is clearly a cover-up happening here concerning the events surrounding his death. We have not received the death certificate, the official autopsy report, or the official report from the prison. I understand that things take time, but the lack of cooperation from the Spanish authorities only confirms our suspicions that they have something to hide. So there's a lot more. There's a rabbit hole of things to go down. I just want to talk about it, not to give an opinion on it, honestly, but just to tell you what I have read and what I know, because I don't know how much has been out there. I haven't seen anything in any kind of mass media about it. I
didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not been something that you just hear about.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty strange, I guess you could say. I mean,
it is strange. I do have to say that if you were going to Epstein John McAfee, that would be a perfect time, because you could just say, oh, he did it because he was being extradited and he didn't want to face whatever.
Right.
It'd be a good excuse.
Yeah. But the guy, I mean, they said down there, even with that murder, that they had nothing on him.
Right.
They said it themselves. I mean, basically the only thing they would have him at all would be the tax things. And, Lord knows you could probably work something out there.
Right, right.
I mean, I don't know. It's very strange, very crazy. And who knows, right? Anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's crazy.
But speaking of crazy, I'd be crazy and remiss not to say you need to be a patron, don't you? They need to be patrons.
They do.
They need to go to patreon.com/paranormal sideshow, where you can get more of our crazy evidence, all that good stuff that we got piling up on here and are literally in front of me right now. And enjoy it, be part of the show, be part of the fun. And also you can go to paranormalsideshow.com to get all of the latest from everything that we say is the latest, because it's the latest late that we've got latent. And you can...
How many times can you use late in a sentence?
Oh, don't get me started. You can go to Twitter at Sacho97 to find my cryptic tweets that I might put out there. So just in case someone tries to suicide me, Stacey. But John and Stacey Edwards on Instagram, hot damn, and they might delete that anyway, just for the hell of it, before they kill me. But speaking of weird and fun and lovely and beautiful and all that stuff, here's Stacey Edwards, some paranormal news.
Inside a dying world, drawn and quartered left and right, there burns a lonesome candle filled with honesty and light. Down a guarded hallway and locked within a tomb, she draws a magic sigil, says some words and follows clues. As the mainstream hills peddle fear and sing the end-time blues, our heroine from Halloween wears black and gives real news. It's now time for Stacey Edwards and Paranormal News.
So let's get to the news.
Let's.
And of course, the first thing we have to talk about is the UFO report that came out on what day?
June 25th.
Yes.
My birthday.
I think somebody called it.
Yes, that
beforehand.
Was me. I called it way beforehand.
It was the last Friday of the month. They kind of just slipped it in there with the news cycle on Friday, so, nobody would pay a whole lot of attention to it.
Yeah, and they didn't.
No, absolutely.
Not the kind of attention they should have paid, because I don't know if they were wanting like mug shots. You know, well, here's the Pleiadians. It's the Pleiadian gang. Gotta watch these assholes, you know.
So basically what came out in the report and all of the articles said was that the government can't explain 143 out of 144 of their mysterious flying object cases that were talked about in this report.
Yeah, it's a clever way to make sure both sides win.
Exactly. They said the one case that they could explain was some kind of deflated balloon sighting. And so they were able to, you know, definitely identify that one.
Somebody's mother-in-law.
But the rest of them, they have no idea. They just said they remain unexplained.
I mean, dude, how many?
143.
So 143 things that they couldn't say swamp gas on.
Right.
Okay. 143 cases that are beyond their realm of expertise when they're the experts.
Right.
They're the ones that make the private things. They're the ones that make the secret stuff. And, you know, that's them saying, you know, we don't know what this craft is that's going these obscene amounts of speed and turning on a dime and all this stuff. We don't know what this floating pyramid is that is over our ships.
Right.
I mean, come the F on.
Well, they did say that out of these particular ones, now these were just incidences that were reported from 2004 to 2021 that were included in this report. And out of that number, only 18 of them were UAPs that were seen featuring some sort of what they're calling unusual movement patterns or flight characteristics, you know, including like strange propulsion or other technology that seemed advanced that we didn't know how to replicate. So out of those, 18 of them were the ones like, you know, with the videos that had already been released and different things like that. And they claim that, you know, in these particular 18, there was some that appeared to remain stationary or move against the wind or maneuver abruptly or move at a considerable speed without any discernible means of propulsion.
Right.
So obviously things that we have no idea how to replicate. And their explanation is that they have no idea what they are, that there's no clear indications that there are any non-terrestrial explanations available, but they don't know, you know, they don't know if they're foreign adversaries. They just have no clue. And they're claiming that the data is inadequate. And I believe what they said was that the limited amount of high quality reporting on UAPs hampers their ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent. And they claim that the UAPTF considered a range of information that was described in U.S. military and intelligence community reporting, but because the reporting lacked sufficient specifics, in other words, there wasn't a tailored reporting process that was required to provide sufficient data for analysis, then they weren't able to give a definitive answer to what they were. And they claim that there was too much anecdotal evidence and they weren't going to base any decisions on anecdotal evidence. It's not scientific evidence, so they can't make a determination on it. Which I thought was really strange because not all the evidence was anecdotal.
No.
I mean, there was quite a bit of, you know, video and radar.
Yeah, and eyewitnesses that they trust with secrets.
That's true, but it's still, the eyewitnesses still falls under anecdotal, technically. But, I mean, those people aren't going to lie about that stuff. They're military.
No, they could lose their jobs. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you've got people that, you trust with nuclear weapons, but you're not going to trust with it.
Right.
What they're telling you. And the whole thing is poppycock.
It is.
Because if you listen, China could make something crazy, just insane, and fly it over our skies and be shot down in a second and war would start.
Right.
Okay. Anytime you hear about a Russian jet that got too close from international waters or a sub or something like that, when you hear about that, it's just big incident. You know, anytime we get too close to somebody, it's a huge international incident.
It is.
And it's all covered. And it's all this big, huge deal. Like we live in two different realities. And then they tell us, well, I don't know. They tracked our guys, or they screwed with our people, or they buzzed our aircraft carrier. Now, just imagine there's something. Imagine the Chinese government created something that does look like a UFO, but they tried buzzing our aircraft carriers. Now, we're going to know. We're just going to know. And, no matter if it showed up the same way, we're going to blow it out of the damn sky, dude. I'm just telling you, they know.
Right.
They know that it's not anybody. They know that it's nobody from this planet, because there's nowhere else to go. It's none of our adversaries. They're looking for the same stuff we are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely they are.
And I mean, they know that it's impossible, okay? To be frank about it, most of our enemies are supplied with planes and weapons that we made and sold to them in the first place. I mean, we're the country that, designs the sickness and then makes the cure.
Right.
It's a long line of that kind of treachery. And that's why this is great. Haha, it's wonderful. Appease us a little bit.
Right.
But no one will ever make me believe that they're as stupid as they're acting right now.
Well, my favorite line in this particular article says that the Pentagon, according to the report, the Pentagon said that they would prefer to rely on a scientific and data-driven approach to collecting information instead of the anecdotal observations reported by the military. Well, of course they would. Who wouldn't prefer scientific data? If you could catch it, you could probably get some scientific data.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. Now, to that end, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and the Pentagon are now, according to this report, making efforts to create a new collection strategy to standardize the data reporting on any kind of UAPs. And the agency said that they will update Congress on their progress within the next 90 days. Just on their progress, not that they're going to be done with whatever this reporting strategy is. So basically, they've kind of teased us with this. They've given us a little bit of what we wanted to hear, but claim they don't have any idea what any of it is. And then the whole bottom line is they're just going to come up with a new standardized way to collect the reports.
Yes. Sir. Yes, Johnson. I talked to him. You talked to the non-Chinese, non-Russian gentleman that we have working for us in the lab. I did. I don't like talking to him, sir. Shut up, Johnson. Tell me what he said. My head hurts, sir. It's worse than the microwave thing. Tell me what he said. Well, he said that we did pretty good and we confused him pretty well, and it should hold everything off for a while. Good. So he's pleased. Well, I wouldn't say he's pleased. It's not like he could smile, but my head hurts really bad. Did you tell the president? Well, he didn't have his mask on, sir. He's eating a mouse, but he's still in his snake form, and you're not supposed to say that. His reptilian, not that either. He was indisposed. That's it. I mean, listen, are we just completely infiltrated?
Probably.
I mean, and to make us docile to this kind of news, to make us so stupid, where we're just okay with the fact that crafts. Number one, we're okay with the fact we've been lied to over and over and over. We don't have anything studying these things because they ain't things, man.
Right.
You a bunch of crazies to going, okay, so we've been looking at them, but I mean, ain't no big hobbabaloo on it. To, well, there might be an Area 51, but we only looked up goats' asses. To all this stuff that they come around and say.
Right.
I mean, they would have to, I don't know, put us on a bunch of medicine that slowly dumbed us down and made us not want to fight.
Put stuff in the water, maybe.
Stuff like that. There would have to be something crazy carried out to, and then maybe have to do another big dose for all of us just because of all the stuff coming out. I mean, I don't even know how they would distribute all that. But anyway,
no idea.
It's just nuts to me that people are so accepting of this. Like they don't want their little paradigm thing. And here, it's like this, man. we go from the age of Pisces, which, is the fish and, all this age of religion and all this stuff, to the age of Aquarius, where the truth comes out. And, we're well geared into the age of Aquarius, and it's going to happen. The truth is out there. And
well, I just think it's amazing that the government of the United States came out and said, hey, we have all these sightings. We have no idea what these are.
Right.
We can't say that they're not ours. We can't say that they belong to another country. We just don't know. And everybody's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean,
I mean, nobody's in an uproar. Nobody's like, maybe we should figure this out. They're like, we're just going to find a new way to report them. That's going to solve the problem.
it don't make sense.
None of it makes sense.
Nothing makes sense anymore. It's just so weird to me, man. I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm really not, because I am happy with what came out. I truly am, because it did say that we can't identify this.
Right.
I'm more upset with the reaction to that. When the crowd goes mild.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know right now. I'm having a hard time taking it. I'm having a hard time just with, okay, we put out this big report. There's a bunch in there. I get it. And there's also still classified stuff, which is crazy.
I'm really curious about this whole reporting thing that they're going to try and come up with, because they want it to be more data driven. What are they going to need? What kind of parameters are they going to put on how you have to report a UAP sighting? Is it going to be so difficult that hardly any reports are going to get in? Because if you have to have some sort of, if they don't want anecdotal evidence, what are you going to give them? Unless you get a really clear video or some kind of debris on the ground, or something that. But
that'll be deemed classified, because it's national security if we get debris. Yeah. So that's just their clever way of getting around, dancing around the subject. And that it is what it is, because we're going to get the truth. We're going to get what we need to get, and it's going to happen when we have a crash on Main Street. And it's going to happen, because there's cameras everywhere. Right. And more so now than ever. Every day that goes by, more so now than ever across the world. I keep up with enough UFO sightings to know there's several incredible ones every single day. There's some recently where someone's using the night vision camera and watch a UFO the entire night on top of a mountain. And, it's amazing. It's in Mexico. It's just amazing. And, there's some of the best UFO sightings I've ever seen recently that have been happening. And, of course, you're not going to see those anywhere unless you look for them and know how to find them. And that's also sad. That's just sad. It's also sad that people don't care enough to find them as much as I do, Right. To me, this is incredible. There's people out there, or things out there, that have the secrets that we seek. They have the secrets I seek. I want to know more about the universe. I want to know more about everything. And can you imagine? All right, you've went through all, most of our secrets, minus the stuff they hide from us, which is a lot. Because it'd be pretty damn interesting if we could see all that. Right. To all the secret knowledge of these others. And how many the others there are, because if you see one, there's a million more. Just crazy. I don't know what they're trying to hold off on, if they're trying to keep pushing it for another generation, Right. They just don't want to get their hands dirty. They're like, we'll let the next round take care of it. The only defense I'll give them is if the past year or so is any indication of how people react to anything weird. Then I do understand not telling people things. Right. Because it's not like the trial run of anything goes well. This is true. So you can tell me, though. That's right. You can tell specific people. You can tell me. It's not like I get on a radio show and tell people secrets. But maybe that's the deal. Maybe they need to make a plan where they tell so many people at a time. Who's going to believe me? Right. I'm the perfect person to tell. Why? We don't talk about anything weird or off or conspiracy. I mean, that's why I get targeted by ghosts. They're like, oh man, it's kind of like a cat wanting to, in the middle of the night, a cat like our new kitty. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's the sweetest kitty ever.
Kitty.
He's such a sweet kitty. Cody couldn't keep his kitty when he moved. And it's actually Hannah's kitty.
It is.
But Cody's fiance. And, so somebody had to keep him. And this came after a really bad run with a familiar that we tried that was just really screwed up because Stacey can't pick normal things.
Yes. Well, this kitty was raised to be weird, so he fit right in.
Yes, this kitty is a big, gigantic, fat, lard. Stacey says he's big boned.
He's big boned. He's not fat. He's big boned, but he loves to be brushed. He loves to play, and he is just the sweetest thing. He's completely black and big yellow eyes.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Big yellow eyes that turn green sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, when you look at him, he's gigantic and he's black and he's got the big yellow eyes. It's just like a movie. He's so big that he looks like the fake Salem cat on Sabrina.
He really does.
He really does.
And he talks a lot. Like, not words, but he meows constantly.
Every morning he gets you up. Like, he knows now when I get up, so he comes over and he's like, meow, 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 meow. But Spooky, by the way.
Yes, his name's Spooky. It's very sweet.
So,
all right, well, let's continue with some more space news. And this is a story that came out that I thought was really interesting in one of those understatement kind of ways. So this is about a new report that was published by the Air Force Research Laboratory. Now, this was put out on June 23rd, so a couple days before the UAP report came out.
McAfee Day.
And it's called A Primer on Cislunar Space. And basically what this report was about, it was supposedly intended for military space professionals that one day might have to develop spacecraft and concepts for operations in regions beyond Earth's orbit. So in other words, if the cislunar area, the area between Earth and the moon, became a military zone, then this report talks about how the U.S. Space Force needs to prepare for a day when they need to monitor that area of space in a military capacity.
Right.
And now the report was written by C. Channing Chow, who is the CEO of Cloudstone Innovations.
I don't want to see Channing Chow again. He eats with his mouth open.
Marcus
You shut up!
I love the name. Marcus Holzinger, the Associate Professor of Aerospace Engineering at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and Peter Garrettson, who is a consultant at the American Foreign Policy Council. And they have been a proponent of advancing research on cislunar space. Now, about a year ago, the Space Vehicles Directorate announced that they were going to fund an experiment to investigate technologies to monitor this area. And they believe that this is going to fall, they call it the Cislunar Highway Patrol System, or CHPS, like CHIPS, like the old, TV show. I thought that was great. And they're going to have an agreement signed by the Space Force and NASA to do like a future collaboration on cislunar space research and technologies. So all this article tells me is that this is already in the works.
Oh, yeah.
That they already want to monitor that area of space, that they want to be the first ones up there in a military capacity. And does it have to do with other countries, or does it have to do with maybe
unidentified stuff?
I mean, it doesn't say. This is just a very passive, report meant to inspire, quote, inspire is what it says.
Right.
But I feel like it's more of a kind of letting us in easy on what's going to be happening. I mean, it's going to be Star Wars soon.
Oh, yeah.
I
hope. I hope.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. That sort of wasn't really reported widely. It was
it's just Mandalorian Star Wars, prequel Star Wars.
You want a very specific Star Wars?
No, I don't want any, floating princesses.
Unfortunately, I think that might be the Star Wars that we're in.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so let's move on. And there's another story floating around out there about scientists who are intrigued by the possible signs of life on one of Saturn's moons, one we always talk about, Enceladus.
Incestuous.
Yes. And this particular report talks about a new study by the University of Arizona that talked about Cassini's observations that found that Enceladus is expelling plumes of a methane gas.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too.
Yes. That suggests, because they had the plumes and they had the methane gas, but it suggests that the moon's subsurface oceans may be habitable, blah, blah, blah.
Except for that stink.
They've gone over it over and over. It's weird that they keep coming out and like it's a new thing. Like, oh, by the way, Enceladus, look over here, Enceladus, we think there might be life here. We think there might be light here.
So it's probably the moon next to it.
It could be. It could be. But they believe that their particular conclusion is that microbial hydrothermal vent activity, that involves extraterrestrial microorganisms
Planet farts.
could explain, all of the methane plumage.
Yeah, or big dragons could explain it.
I like the big dragon theory.
Dragons eat a lot of incestuous beans. And they have the big plumage of methane. Man, I bet dragon farts smell terrible.
They can't smell any worse than Spookies.
No, it's true.
In the middle of the night, he likes to
You
let one rip.
You got to be careful with the fire when that happens. That might be how they light it.
It could be.
Maybe they just kind of like, indigestion. It's pretty cool.
You've solved it, the dragon theory. All right. So while we're talking about studies in space, I thought this one was really interesting. And this is about astronomers that identify the star systems that could be watching us from space.
All of them.
All of them. Well, yes and no. So it says if there were alien civilizations in other star systems, would they be able to detect our presence? And they believe this team of astronomers has identified 2,034 star systems that are within 326 light years or 100 parsecs.
Do we pay for this?
I think so. That would have the right vantage point to detect Earth life signs as we orbit the sun. So the same way that we try to detect life on other planets, these 2,000 whatever planets are in the perfect spot at some point to, if they try to detect life on Earth, would be able to detect that there was life here.
They probably just gave the aliens an idea. They're like, oh, damn it. Alien Johnson. Nanu. You never told me about this. I thought you scattered them all out. Nanu. I mean, I don't know. We pay for this?
Probably, yes, because it was done through a university.
Son of a...
They're using this vantage point that is known as the Earth Transit Zone. And they said they wanted to know which stars have the right vantage point in this Earth Transit Zone.
But why?
To see, just in case.
In case what?
In case there's people out there trying to detect us.
So we know where to moon them?
I guess. It says that some of the systems that have been or will be in the Earth Transit Zone, 7 of those are known to host exoplanets, and some that we've heard them talk about. They include Ross 128, TRAPPIST-1, and Teegarden Star. And some of those are ones that they talked about having, the habitable zone planets and possibly life
I hope Planet
there.
Ross is a thing. I hope that's where they all are at, and they all look like Ross.
Ross 128.
Ross is one of those names you wouldn't want to be named because there's only one Ross.
Right.
And he's got such a long, like, weird, sad face. Like, it's just Ross is Ross. When you say Ross, people think of Ross.
Mm-hmm. Then you have to marry someone named Rachel, and it's just
I would marry
weird.
somebody named Rachel. She made me like people named Rachel. Like, to me, I've never met an unattractive Rachel.
Oh.
I can't think of one.
I don't know. I don't know that many people named Rachel. Do I know any people named Rachel? I know a couple.
No, you don't know any. So moving on.
You're like, nope, forget about it. I know. I do remember Rachel. I was just being funny.
I don't
I don't know what you're talking
have
about.
to clue me in later.
I've incriminated myself. All right. So let's talk about this next story about a newly found mega comet.
That's interesting.
That may be the largest seen in recorded history.
At least that's what it tells us.
That's what it says. It's a giant comet. A giant comet. Someone just said something
it's
really big.
It's the biggest comet ever, baby.
A giant comet found far out in the solar system may be 1,000 times more massive than a typical comet.
Wow.
which is insane. Now, they officially designated this object that they found on June 23rd. June 23rd was a big day.
It was.
So on June 23rd, they officially designated this object as a comet. And they estimate that the icy body has a diameter of 62 miles, 62 to 124 miles. There's kind of a range there.
A little bit.
Yeah. And that makes it about 10 times wider
Dude,
than
this
a
big
typical
or exactly twice as
comet.
big as what we said. How do you freaking get that big of a difference? Like,
I mean, it's still pretty
it's
far
either
away.
a football field or 2 football fields.
Well, it's not going to make its closest approach to our planet until 2031, so 10 years from now.
That's not long enough.
I know. So I guess they don't see it well enough to make an accurate measurement on it. They say it's going
Since
to.
it's ice, we can send one of the farting dragons up there.
They say it's going to remain at quite a distance even then. Now, it was first spotted in some archival images from the Dark Energy Survey that was taken in 2014.
Of course.
But now it's located at the equivalent distance of Uranus, which is roughly 20 astronomical units from the sun. And
The cat's anus is huge.
it is. It's ridiculous. And he likes to stick it in your face.
Yeah, gigantic. You can start petting him. He just says, "You've seen my ass? I got a giant butthole."
So what makes this particular comet so special, aside from how big it is the fact that it hasn't visited the inner solar system in 3 million years. It says roughly the same era that the famous human ancestor Lucy was walking the Earth, supposedly.
Yeah.
So that would have been the last time this comet was around. So I don't know, very strange. I think it's funny that it's going to pass in 10 years because when you look, there's a lot of stories going around about plans to deflect near Earth objects. You've seen those stories. There's I think China's in on it now. China's decided that they can send rockets up to and crash them into a meteor, an asteroid or whatever, and bump it off course if it was ever.
Yeah. Would you rely on the Chinese one, though?
No, because they just let it fall to Earth and they wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But, even the U.S. has their own plan about running into comets and things like that. And in those stories, if you read them, they all talk about how if they had a 10-year run up to that particular object, they would have enough time to send enough comets to. Now, the thing about the Chinese is, the problem with the Chinese rockets is they'd separate and then the separated piece falls to Earth. They wouldn't separate the rockets because you'd want all that momentum going into whatever was coming at the Earth.
I would, if I was a scientist working on something like this, I would say, "Oh God, there's one coming, guys. We got to work on it. It'll take the entire time. How long is it till I'm 65 again? It's going to take this many years and this many days,
Right.
and I'm going to need to work on it, fully funded until that point." And at that time, I should be able to take care of this for you.
That's right. Then it'll all be good.
Yes.
But talking about space, we've talked about how all the billionaires are racing to get to space.
Yes, they are.
And recently, Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson, the owner, he jumped ahead of Jeff Bezos. He was like, "Oh, hey, I'm going to take a little trip to space." And he did that this past week on a test flight for Virgin Galactic, and it was very successful.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't deep space. It was just above Earth's atmosphere. That's just barely into space where you free float for 5 minutes and then you land again.
I mean, it's there though. I mean, it's kind of like, he just stuck the tip in.
Exactly. Now, that's all that his company.
But my boy.
Right. Now,
my boy's going full on.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, Virgin Galactic, the Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos, they are both doing just barely out, so you get the free floating experience. That's what you pay
That's what
for.
they're claiming anyway.
Yeah. Now, Elon Musk is International Space Station.
He's just telling you straight up.
Deep space. He's, eventually taking you to Mars.
He's
kind of ambition.
Prepare yourself. I'm coming all the way.
Well, I thought that this whole story was really funny because, we talked about how Jeff Bezos was like, "Oh, I'm going to be the first billionaire in space." And he made this big, huge deal about it. And then on June 25th, Branson comes out and it's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going on July 11th. When were you going? The 20th? Yeah, no, I'm going on the 11th. So, there's that. So it's totally whose truck is bigger kind of race. And they're just trying to beat each other up there. They did live stream it. I think there was a little bit of issue with that. Maybe, I don't know if it live streamed the whole time, but it was a very successful trip. He said he's, of course, doing the rounds now on all the talk shows and all the, all the publicity. And I guess now that it was successful, they did get their FAA license to fly passengers on future space flights, and they're targeting early 2022 to begin flying paying passengers.
For more people that have nothing better to do with your money.
Right.
You know, because they just try to come up with things to spend their money.
Exactly. But so that's it. The first billionaire has been to space.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it's cool. I mean, I don't have anything against them. If I had the money to do it, I would too.
Yeah. And it's not like it wasn't a fly-by-night thing. They've been working on this for, how long have we been talking about that?
Well, I mean, there's still, unfortunately, every time we talk about it, I think about our cult hero.
Yes. Yes.
You remember?
Yes. Mad Mike Hughes.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Rest in peace.
He tried.
Rest in peace, Mad Mike.
I mean,
we really were banking on you, buddy.
He built his own rocket too. It's just he wasn't a billionaire.
Yeah, no, he wasn't.
The garage was a little different.
I hope he's up there now.
Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. So you mentioned Elon. I just wanted to mention this funny thing that Elon did on Twitter, because I love Elon Musk's Twitter.
It's the best.
And in this article, it is talking about, according to Elon Musk and his Twitter, his Starship could chomp up on space junk.
It's the best thing ever.
I love this. So,
because he thinks of stuff like this.
And one thing funny about this article is there was a typo in it, and it says, according to a recent statement issued by SpaceX founder Musk. So he's not Elon Musk, he's Musk.
That's his alien name. Oh, Musk.
Somebody tweeted a question to him, and he's very good about answering. And they basically asked if there was any way, if SpaceX had thought of any way to eventually collect space debris. You know, it's a problem. Yeah, there's tons of junk floating around there.
Take a look at a damn, GPS thing. and
Right. Yeah, we have that app, the Star app, where you can look and see where the stars are, and it'll show you the space junk floating around.
It looks ridiculous. Like the floorboard of my car after a trip.
It's ridiculous. And he answered this person, and he said, yes, we can fly Starship around space and chomp up debris with the moving fairing door. So I thought this was hilarious because the Starship is a huge ship, and on the back of it there is a clamshell door that opens to release the payload that they're taking to space. And what he's saying is, once they've delivered whatever satellites or whatever they're delivering, that he could fly it around, whale through krill style, basically,
right, and
scoop up. And the thing's huge; it could hold several rockets. I mean, quite a bit of space debris. Just fly it through all that debris and scoop it up like a fish would eat. Yeah. I just think that's hilarious. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to do that, or if that just came off the top of his head, but I feel like that's how he gets his ideas. People ask him questions and something pops into his head and he's like, yes, let's do that.
Absolutely. Yes. I love Elon Musk, which I've said many times. He doesn't ever answer me because I say stuff like,
I love you.
Yeah. I love you, Elon. Will you be my brother? Can we go hang in our tree fort together?
He's probably like, yeah, no.
I'm sure I'm on the, do not allow this man in the building list.
All right. So before we finish our space news, there is something that I wanted to mention about an article that's going around that I think is being a little misrepresented, and it's about the moon wobble. Have you heard about the moon wobble that's coming? Of course
I have.
And they're saying that thanks to this wobble in the moon's orbit and rising sea levels, that every coast in the United States is going to face rapidly increasing high tides. That's going to start a decade of dramatic increases in flood numbers, in the 2030s.
Right.
And it's this whole long article about how climate change has made the seas rise. So now when this moon does its wobble, which it does, by the way, every couple decades, that it's going to be worse than normal. I don't like that they're trying to play this up as a way to make people afraid.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
It isn't anything new.
It's really not. And, it's just something that happens. It's not the first time it's happened, and it's not the last time it'll happen. So don't get too overly concerned with that. It's just a thing.
Yeah. And the way they explain it, like NASA explained it, they say that, it's a regular thing, that it's entirely natural. The moon goes on like an 18.6 year lunar cycle, and half of that time it makes the high tides higher, and half of the time it makes them
way more
lower.
concerned with the pole flip.
Right. I think the article is just trying to tie climate change into what's going on and saying, oh, yeah, it's going to be so much worse because we're killing our planet, and so just wanted to point that out for anybody that had been seeing because I did have it sent to me a couple times, and I just didn't want people to be overly concerned.
Which climate change does happen as well.
Yes,
but it happens anyway. And it happens, especially with our magnetic structure and not having that the same way it goes away before we had the pole flip, which we've had before and many times. And, the shield just gets weak and it allows things to happen. And it happens. It just happens that way. So, I mean, worrying about it all the time is not going to prevent it.
This is true. Now, that's a good segue, by the way, while you were talking about the magnetic field and stuff, I did pull the story about how we had the major X-class solar flare, which I know you follow all the sun stuff, but this was the strongest solar flare seen in 4 years that erupted from the surface of the sun. If you followed the sun thing like John does, it looked amazing. Like the video of it spewing out.
And there was a big one the last couple of days on the backside of the sun. It's absolutely nothing to be concerned with, but it was gigantic, still beautiful to see. But these things are awesome to see. And, these X-class are really rare.
They are. Now, for people that don't really follow it, they classify solar flares by their X-ray brightness, and it's like A, B, C, M, or X. So X is like the mamma jamma, the big one.
Yeah.
The big one. And if it had been facing the Earth, it would probably disrupt some of our, electronics and grids and things like that.
Well, I mean, a directly faced X-class solar flare can knock out every one of our communications for months.
Yes, I was trying not to be scary.
Well, I mean,
yes, but this one wasn't.
It's the truth, and we're active right now. More active than we've been in a very long time. We're getting all kinds of M-class and everything go across. And every time it's facing us with a couple sunspots, there's always the chance that it's going to release and it's going to come our way. And that's why it's really good to, have some provisions and, some weapons and some generators and things like that, because you just never know, man. And the reason it's more important right now than ever is because we rely on that crap more than ever, but also because our magnetic field is theoretically weaker than normal. And, so that's what protects us. Just imagine holding a big shield up and it's been hit a whole lot.
Right.
And some shit's going to get through.
And, speaking of the magnetic field, we've talked recently about all the weird things about the animals.
Oh, yeah.
There have been so many stories about animals doing weird things.
Or the bird deaths.
Yes, the bird deaths. And then we've got, like, in China, you've got the elephants that are migrating to areas that they don't live in.
Yeah.
They
all go by the magnetism.
Right. There's other animals in other countries. I don't have all of those stories, but if you search it, there are a lot of different places where the animals are doing weird things. We talked about the fish, the whales, the things washing up on shore where they shouldn't be. All the animals, and that's really a sign.
Because they're confused.
Yeah.
They use that. They've got that they've got the homing signal basically. And that puts birds in the wrong place. That
it does.
That makes whales, go in groups. And so, because they're smarter than us, folks. They're all smarter than us because they're all still in touch with nature.
And they can feel it. They can feel the change, and they feel, and one thing about some of the different animals is they're all moving to higher ground. Yeah. Which is really unusual. Maybe they know that the wobble's coming and it's going to flood in 10 years.
You've got that, and you've got, days speeding up and, stuff that we've not seen before.
Right.
We got the highest temperatures ever recorded on planet Earth right now. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that, there are things to be concerned with, but they're not things to be concerned with to, hide in a cave all the time.
No,
It's a lot of this stuff, it doesn't happen, with the snap of a finger.
Right.
You're going to be able to see it progressively get worse. And, but I would be prepared. I would absolutely get some provisions and, some MREs or something.
Yeah. Just have, enough to last you for a little time.
Yeah.
A couple weeks.
They'll get it fixed.
Now, why we're talking about the whole magnetic with the birds and things, there was a story about the worst day ever in pigeon racing history.
Yes.
And what happened was 5,000 birds vanished. They have no idea where they went.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
It is.
Now, there was a race across the UK, and we're talking about homing pigeons here, okay? Now, homing pigeons absolutely use the magnetic field, for their guidance system. And they claim that they have seen one of the very worst ever racing days in their history. Part of a 250,000 pigeons in a race. They were released in approximately 50 racing events across the country. So this isn't just one event. This is all these different racing events across the country on the same day. And only 10% returned on time, with another tens of thousands reported missing. Now, they claim that possibly there was a meteorological event that may have messed up with the Earth's magnetic field, but it's really unclear what prompted homing pigeons to not go home in that number, that drastic number. And, people that do this all the time, this is races that were put on by like the Royal Pigeon Racing Association. There's an association. They're devastated. This is what they do. They raise these birds. They're like their pets, and they would take them and they would release them for this race, and they would wait for them to come home. And some people didn't get any birds back. Some got a few back. Mm-hmm. And it was just so strange. They have absolutely no idea what happened to them. They said one gentleman that they interviewed lost 300 birds in the same race.
Wow.
So, I don't know, it's so very strange for homing pigeons that are trained and always go home to not go.
Yeah.
So, as I was researching this story, just to add another correlation onto the weird pigeon mystery, I came across this story of what the newspapers dubbed the Great Pigeon Race Disaster. And this happened in 1997. Because 1997 wasn't a strange year or anything, was it?
No.
And what the weird thing that happened was this one gentleman entered all of his birds to race from France across the channel back home to the UK. And he lost thousands of his birds. And 5 years later, one bird returned.
Wow.
Which made it, hit the papers again.
Was he wearing a Hawaiian shirt and like...
He was not. He couldn't figure out. It was so funny because he had a lot of birds, but he had this one bird named Whitetail, and he had these very distinct feathers on his tail. That's how he could tell which one it was. They were white, yes. And this was a pigeon he had that won a lot of races, very distinguished in the pigeon racing community. He was one of the ones that went missing. And then 5 years later, he finally made his way home. But they have no idea where he had been for 5 years that he couldn't find his way home. So it's not the first time that this has happened, but it's still just as mysterious and strange.
No, that's really weird, man. I mean, really, it is.
Yeah. I think the thing that happened in 1997, they tried to piece together things with like maybe strange aircraft that were flying through the area, anything that would disrupt the pigeon's homing ability.
Right.
I don't know if they ever came up with a definitive answer for that. So.
No, it's really cool.
All right, so let's move on to some discoveries. Shall we? So this first one is about a discovery of a Neanderthal artwork. This is something that was found in a German cave that was once famous for its, quote, unicorn bones during medieval times.
Oh, hell.
Supposedly there was bones found there and people decided they were unicorn bones. But they found this symbolic artwork that was created by Neanderthals. It's a chevron design that was carved into the toe bone of the now extinct giant deer. Now, they dated the bone to about 51,000 years ago.
Right.
And that sort of suggests that the Neanderthals had carved the bone on their own without influence or help from any anatomically modern humans.
Right.
And the symbolic artwork suggests that they had greater cognitive capacity than previously thought.
I hear that every couple of weeks.
You do. And they're saying now that Neanderthals were very smart. And they did some studies on this to see, like they tried to see if maybe it had been worn as jewelry or if it had been used as some sort of tool or anything like that. And the strange thing about it is that they didn't find any traces saying that it was worn or used for as a pendant or anything like that. However, it can stand on its own without falling over. So they're thinking that since it has no practical use, that perhaps it was just placed on its base as a display object.
It could have been, man.
I mean, they could be decorating their cave. It could have been like a stand.
50,000 years ago, it could have been an accountant. They don't know.
Yeah, they have no idea.
Every picture, every time we get somebody, it's like, well, here's a modern, link to modern human. It's 150,000 years old. And they show a picture, and it's always like a furry dude that with a real dumb face. They don't know. They just don't know.
The only things that they can tell is that the lines are deeply carved. They weren't haphazardly made by like butchering something, and that they were fairly evenly spaced, indicating that they were intentionally carved that way as a decorative item, I suppose. Just because they don't know what it was used for doesn't mean that it didn't have a purpose.
Yeah, no.
I mean, clearly,
awesome.
Yeah, it may have, but I love the fact that they dated it to a point where it had to be Neanderthals and it was more advanced than what they thought. So
yeah. Very cool, man. I mean, we've had a lot of those things lately, basically missing links.
Yeah. All right, so let's go on to this next discovery. This one is fantastic. It's about a man who found a witch bottle with both
Witch bottle?
Witch bottle with human teeth and hair while searching
bottle.
in the woods. So this man was exploring his local woods recently, and he discovered an old artifact that he's not going to display in his home. He said perhaps he's going to just return it back to where he found it. He found a pile of broken dishes in the woods near his home in England and decided to inspect it. And then he found the bottle underneath, which contained a human tooth, hair, and a yellowish liquid that appeared to be urine.
Oh, no.
Yes. So he said that on his latest visit, he found a blue poison bottle and broken doll's head, which was creepy in itself. And most of the stuff that he found...
They found my bottle, Broomhilda.
Most of the stuff that he found was kind of dated back around to 1900. But as he was digging away with that other stuff, the bottle came out and he thought, what is that inside? And then he noticed the tooth in there. So he took a little video of it. He didn't really know what it was at first. He started to research the item, and then he discovered that it could possibly be a witch bottle that may date back to as early as 1860. So he said he went back the following day and placed it back in like an undisturbed part near where he found it and buried it, just
so
like
clarification
it was.
purposes, is this one of the witch bottles that people put up to prevent witches, or is it a witch bottle that was a spell from a witch?
He's saying it's one that was used to ward off evil spells and
so
curses.
It's traditional witch bottle.
Yes. So
which we found tons of in the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know if that means that it's just for evil or if they thought there was a witch in the area that they wanted to keep away.
Right.
It could be one or the other. But it was smart of him, I think, to return it and put it back in the earth where he found it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen too many Scooby-Doos. I know better.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Don't want to be keeping that stuff. All right. So we got a couple more stories here. This one, I love this story. This is about Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Yes, just saying that name just does something to you, doesn't it?
It does.
I can see the gleam in your eye already.
Yeah. She's cool.
Yes. So Megan Fox says that she recently did an ayahuasca experience in Costa Rica with Machine Gun Kelly.
I'd like to have given her the ayahuasca. I mean, like, what's going to happen? Well, sometimes you think that you have sex with me.
But it's just a hallucination.
It's all a hallucination. You just got to go with it. Let things happen as they will.
I'm pretty sure everyone in this house is in love with Megan Fox in some way.
So what happens is you take it and it seems like you have sex with my entire family. You just got to go with it.
Well, they went to her Machine Gun Kelly. They went to Costa Rica, and she was talking about, she was on Jimmy Kimmel Live recently because she's in a new movie that just came out like 2 weeks ago. Have you seen the trailer for this movie yet?
I have not.
It's called Till Death.
Oh, is it?
It is. Isn't that a fantastic name?
What a cool title.
I love that title.
Wow.
Anyway, the movie does look good. I watched part of the trailer. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I wanted to wait for you to finish it. But it looks really good. All right. So they went to Costa Rica to try the hallucinogenic tea to have their own, ayahuasca experience. And she said that she went to, quote, hell for eternity during her experience.
Wow.
And she did.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, she did explain, she didn't go into a lot of detail, but she did explain the whole process. And she said that, you get there and it's not like a resort, you're really in the middle of the jungle. It's really struggle. You're not pampered. There's not a lot of amenities, let's say. And that they don't let you eat after 1 p.m. You have to walk a really far distance to get your water. You can't shower because they're in a drought. She said it's designed to put you in a very vulnerable place. And then they take the whole group and they give you this tea because you have to evacuate everything from your stomach. You have to. So give you this lemongrass tea. And she said that she was so worried because the last thing she wanted to do was vomit in front of a bunch of strangers.
Right.
But everybody did it. And she said it kind of takes away that vulnerability a little bit when everybody's puking together.
I've read about it a million times.
Yeah. When everybody's throwing up together, it kind of makes you feel more comfortable around everybody. And basically, what else do you have to lose after people seen you, hurling your guts out? That's pretty much it. And so she went on she said it was like her own version of hell for eternity. It was like her own personal hell. And she was definitely there. And she worked through a lot of personal stuff. She didn't go into detail, but she said it surpasses any kind of therapy or hypnotherapy because it just goes straight to your soul and it just breaks you out of that psychological prison that you're in. Like
right.
you get so much accomplished
right
during the trip.
You
so
see the truth.
And she definitely suggests, even though she had that kind of experience, she suggests that people do it, but to be sure and, absolutely go with the indigenous route. People that are trained have done it.
Right.
It's some part of their culture. So, you're getting the right experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind to do it like at Berkeley. Like in the medical, like
right.
in a lab where I know people are monitoring me and stuff.
Right. Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah. And like for testing purposes, they could see how it would work. I would be interested to see what would happen with
all those. With the God Particle documentary, all those seem to have been pretty stellar.
Yeah.
You only are there for like 10 minutes or something, but it's they all have like all the geometric patterns, and the most of them get to meet people.
Right.
The little elf people that come out and all this stuff. So
it does sound, it's something we're going to have to do in our life.
Oh, absolutely. Man.
Absolutely. All right. So Skywatcher news. It's time for the best meteor shower of the year. Just started today. Yes. The Perseid meteor shower is already upon us. It started and it's going to go until August 24th. And it says it will peak around August 12th, where up to about 100 meteors an hour can be caught.
Graham Hancock says
shooting across the sky.
This is the one that hit us with the big one 12,000 years ago.
Ooh, do you think this is the one that's going to hit us again the next time?
No.
They had their shot.
Yeah, they had their shot a couple times.
They said for best viewing, stay up late night on August 11th or very extra early on August 12th. Find somewhere that is very dark with low light pollution. And NASA has a meteor calculator and the International Dark Sky Association's Dark Sky Finder to help you find the best viewing spot for you. And then you can... even if it's not the peak, you can still see the meteors, just not quite as often. The peak is the best time to get all the shooting stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. All right. So next story, just something cool that's happening in Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, that's
you believe it? There's a new haunted house restaurant that's opening.
Oh, cool.
In Cleveland. And it's
Is it themed on the football team?
Possibly.
Just open for like 18 weeks.
It has a very unique name. It's called the Haunted House Restaurant. It's opening on July 20th. And they said from the moment people come through the doors, they're paying homage to classic horror and thriller movies. Their theme is the haunted house, where the only thing that's scary is how good our food is.
Oh, well.
Is what they say. So there's artwork in the restaurant that features characters from popular movies like, Ghostbusters, Friday the 13th, It, Addams Family, Beetlejuice, things like that. There's murals that you can take pictures in front of, and they have the full menu of scary good food. Like appetizers include Scooby snacks, Chucky rolls, Frankenfish tacos, things like that. And their entrees are all themed as well. The Grudge, Final Destination, Bird Box sandwich. Different.
We need to make like the
they've themed everything.
exploitation restaurant, so we can have like Hammer horror from the 60s and 70s and like scantily clad women. And
That would be cool.
I mean, like, everything looked very gothic-y in there.
Right.
And we feed them like, British fare.
Well, this place sounds really cool. If we're ever in Cleveland, I really want to go there and eat because I love that everything's themed like that.
If we're ever in Cleveland, I'll take you there.
It's not a very good likelihood, is there?
Not as long as they have a bypass.
When I was on Facebook the other day, one of our friends was posting a picture of this really cool looking castle house that was for sale. Like they post those all the time, and it needs to be redone, but it looks just like a castle, and it's like got the turrets, and it's got I don't know if you saw it, it's got the top, the windows, and it's just gorgeous, and it looks like it could be an Addams Family house, only it needs to be painted black. But it's in the middle of this neighborhood, and it's only on less than half an acre. And so they posted it, and I was like, who would build that house on less than half an acre of land? I was like, I would just paint it all black, and then, all the other houses around it are kind of normal, so you'd be like, where do you live? Well, pull into this neighborhood. You'll see it.
Yeah, right?
It's there, trust me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure the price was good.
It was beautiful though. Beautiful house. All right, last story. This is about the police in Pennsylvania that broke up an exorcism at the Home Depot.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
I know, when they break up a perfectly good exorcism. This was just one of those blips on, the police scanner. But the police did in Lackawanna County did have to go to the Home Depot and break up what they were calling an exorcism in the lumber aisle of the home improvement store. The details were kind of scarce.
I hope they were using lumber to do it.
Well, what I feel like is people were in there having a
Hail, Satan!
funeral service, maybe, because the trees were cut into lumber. So my thought would be maybe they were like having a ceremony for the dead trees, but they called it an exorcism. The police called it an exorcism. I don't know what they were exorcising, the spirits of the trees, maybe. I'm not sure, but somebody called on them and they had to go down there and escort the people out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, that could have splintered into some really crazy stuff.
It sounds like maybe people were...
We have a splinter cell, sir. Sorry, I had to do the joke.
All the wood-related humor.
Oh, yeah. Got wood. That's, it's Home Depot, folks.
Yes. Don't buy lumber from Home Depot. Clearly it's
haunted. It's all haunted.
Somebody knows something, and you don't want to build your house with that because it's going to be haunted right off the bat.
I read a story the other day where they got some lumber thieves by using DNA from the trees.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away with anything nowadays, can you?
Not if you can do that.
No.
Not if you can do that.
Wow.
And on that miserable note, is that it for the news?
That is it for the news.
Well, I think that's about it for us as well. We've had a lot of evidence to go through and a bunch of fun to get ready for, to turn right back around and give you another show. Just wanted to catch y'all up and have a good time. ParanormalSideshow.com is your destination. For my lovely wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.